The cup shattered against the marble floor of Buckingham Palace. But here's the thing that'll blow your mind. It wasn't thrown in anger. It wasn't even dropped by accident. Queen Elizabeth II had deliberately let it fall from her fingers, watching the fine bone china explode into 1,000 pieces at the Prime Minister's feet, and she never broke eye contact. It's 1982. The Falklands War is raging, and behind the palace doors, a battle even more dangerous is about to unfold. Because what happened in that room would change the course of British history forever, and almost nobody knows about it. The Prime Minister, let's call her Margaret, had stormed into the Queen's private study without an appointment. Security had tried to stop her, but she'd brushed past them like they were ghosts. Her heels clicked against the polished floors like a countdown timer. "Your Majesty," Margaret said, her voice sharp enough to cut glass, "we need to discuss your son." The Queen didn't look up from her correspondence, didn't even acknowledge the intrusion, just kept writing with that fountain pen, each stroke deliberate and controlled. The silence stretched between them like a tightrope. Margaret's jaw tightened. "Andrew is serving on HMS Invincible. The ship is heading directly into harm's way." Still nothing. The Queen's hand moved across the paper. "Scratch, scratch, scratch. Ma'am, I'm ordering the ship to change course. The risk is too great." That's when it happened. The Queen set down her pen. Slowly, carefully, like she was defusing a bomb. "You will do no such thing." 4 words, spoken so quietly that Margaret had to lean forward to hear them. But they carried the weight of 1,000 years of monarchy. Margaret's face flushed red. "Your Majesty, with respect, this is a matter of national security. I am the Prime Minister of, you are a public servant." The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. The Queen finally looked up, and her eyes, those pale blue eyes that had stared down dictators and presidents, were like winter storms. "My son," she continued, her voice still barely above a whisper, "volunteered to serve his country, just like every other young man on that ship. You will not make him a coward by pulling him from danger." Margaret stepped forward, her political instincts screaming at her to back down, but her maternal ones driving her forward. "Ma'am, if something happens to Prince Andrew, the public will never forgive me. The press will tear me apart. The opposition will." "Will what?" The Queen stood up, all 5 feet 4 inches of her. But in that moment, she seemed to tower over the room. "Will question your judgment, will doubt your leadership, will wonder if you're fit to govern." The silence that followed was deafening. Margaret's hands were shaking now, just slightly, but enough that she had to clasp them behind her back. "Your Majesty, I've made my decision." That's when the Queen picked up her teacup. Royal Worcester, probably worth more than most people's cars. She held it delicately, like she was about to take a sip. Instead, she opened her fingers. Crash! The sound echoed through the room like a gunshot. Neither woman moved. The Queen's eyes never left Margaret's face. "Oops," the Queen said, her voice dripping with the kind of polite venom that only comes from centuries of breeding. "How clumsy of me." Margaret stared at the broken china, at the tea spreading across the Persian rug, at the Queen who was now smiling, actually smiling, with all the warmth of an Arctic wind. "Perhaps," the Queen continued, "you should be more careful about the decisions you make in my house." The Prime Minister's political career flashed before her eyes. She'd fought tooth and nail to get where she was, broken through barriers that had stood for centuries. She'd stared down union leaders, foreign dignitaries, and her own cabinet members. But this was different. This was the crown itself, reminding her who really held the power. "Ma'am," Margaret said, her voice barely steady, I will not risk a royal life for political gain." "Political gain? My dear Prime Minister, you seem to misunderstand. This isn't about politics. This is about duty." She walked around the desk, her footsteps careful to avoid the broken china. When she reached Margaret, she stopped just close enough to make the Prime Minister uncomfortable. "My son understands something you appear to have forgotten," the Queen said. "That service to one's country isn't conditional. It isn't something you turn on and off based on convenience or public opinion polls." Margaret's face was burning now. "Your Majesty, I'm trying to protect. You're trying to protect yourself." The words cut through the air like a blade. "And in doing so, you would rob my son of his honor. You would tell every sailor on that ship that royal blood is worth more than their own. You would make a mockery of everything the crown is supposed to represent." The Queen paused, letting the words sink in. "I will not allow it." Margaret felt something break inside her chest. Not her resolve, that was still there, as strong as ever, but something else. Her certainty, maybe. Her conviction that she always knew what was right. "What if he dies?" she whispered. For the first time, the Queen's mask slipped. Just for a second, a mother's fear flickered across her face like lightning. "Then he dies with honor," she said, her voice thick with emotion she couldn't quite hide. "And I will mourn him, and I will be proud of him, and I will know that he served his country the way a prince should." The two women stood there, surrounded by broken china and broken certainties, the most powerful woman in Britain and the most powerful woman in the world, locked in a battle that neither could really win. Margaret was the first to break. She nodded once, sharply, like a soldier accepting orders. "HMS Invincible will maintain course," she said. "Yes," the Queen replied. "It will." Margaret turned to leave, then stopped at the door. "Ma'am, what if I'm wrong? What if the worst happens and the public blames me?" The Queen walked back to her desk, stepping carefully around the broken teacup. "Then you'll learn what every monarch learns eventually, my dear Prime Minister, that sometimes doing what's right matters more than being right." Margaret left without another word. The Queen waited until the door closed, then rang for someone to clean up the mess. But here's the thing that'll keep you up at night. Prince Andrew did serve in the Falklands. He flew helicopter missions, faced enemy fire, and came home a hero. The war was won, the Prime Minister's popularity soared, and the monarchy's reputation was strengthened. But what if the Queen had blinked? What if she'd let her maternal instincts override her duty to the crown? What if she'd chosen her son's safety over his honor? The broken teacup was swept away that afternoon. But the cracks it revealed, in the relationship between crown and parliament, between duty and love, between what we want to do and what we must do, those cracks remain. And sometimes late at night in Buckingham Palace, they say you can still hear the echo of china breaking on marble floors. The Queen never bought another Royal Worcester tea set, because some things once broken can never be put back together the same way.